Stop scrolling for 1 second. What you're about to hear is not comfortable. It is not sweet. It is not the kind of thing people post online. It is the part of being human that everybody feels but almost nobody says out loud. Today we are not talking about tips or tricks or 5-minute hacks. We are talking about the hidden operating system running underneath every person you have ever met, including yourself. The version of them that shows up when nobody is watching. The version behind the smile, behind the "I'm fine," behind the kindness that sometimes isn't kindness at all. This comes from one of the most talked about books on human behavior ever written, a book that strategists, therapists, founders, and even people in intelligence work have quietly studied for years, because it explains something school never taught you: why people do what they do, why the person who swore they'd never hurt you did exactly that, why you keep falling into the same relationship with a different face, why you can want something so badly, get it, and then feel nothing. Here's the warning before we start. Once you see these patterns, you cannot go back to not seeing them. You will notice the mask slip on people you trusted. You will notice your own mask too, and that is not a curse. That is the beginning of real power, the kind nobody can take from you. This video is also built to strengthen your English. The sentences are simple on purpose. The stories are vivid on purpose, so that while you absorb the ideas, your ear is also absorbing rhythm, vocabulary, and natural expression. You are training your mind and your language at the same time. Let's begin. Rule 1. Humans run on feeling, not logic. We like to believe we are reasonable creatures. We tell ourselves we chose that job for good reasons, that we pick that partner with a clear head, that we make our decisions in a calm, calculated way. Almost none of that is true. Underneath the surface, a current of fear, pride, jealousy, and longing is steering the wheel, and logic is just sitting in the passenger seat, quietly agreeing with whatever feeling already decided. Think about the last time you bought something you didn't need. Maybe it wasn't about the object at all. Maybe it was about proving something, to yourself or to somebody watching. Think about the message you fired off in anger, the one you deleted an hour later out of embarrassment. Think about the relationship you knew wasn't right, yet you stayed. Not because it made sense, but because being alone felt scarier than being unhappy. The dangerous part is that we rarely catch ourselves doing this. We build a tidy little explanation after the fact and call it reason. A person who feels small inside will often read your calm confidence as an insult. A person boiling with anger will find a reason to lash out at you even when you've done nothing wrong, because they are not reacting to you, they are reacting to a storm already inside them. So what do you do with this? You build a habit of pausing. Before you react, ask yourself one honest question. Am I responding to what actually happened, or am I responding to an old fear wearing today's clothes? Say a friend goes quiet for 2 days. Your mind rushes to, they don't care about me anymore. But maybe they're overwhelmed. Maybe they're unwell. Maybe life simply got loud for them. Wait before you decide. Breathe before you answer. The people who seem unshakable in this world are not the ones who never feel anything. They are the ones who learn to slow the feeling down before it drives. Rule 2. Everyone is the main character of their own story. We throw around the word self-obsessed as if it only applies to a rare, extreme type of person, the one constantly checking a mirror or fishing for compliments. But look closer and you'll find a quieter, everyday version living in almost all of us. From the moment we're small, we're trained to track our own needs first. Even mid-conversation, part of our mind is already rehearsing what we'll say next, instead of truly hearing the other person. Here's the uncomfortable part. When two people caught in this pattern talk to each other, real listening barely happens. Both are waiting for their turn. Both are quietly measuring the exchange against themselves. This is why friendships cool, why couples drift, why leaders lose the loyalty of the people around them. Everyone walks away feeling unheard. The way out is not fake politeness. It's building a genuine habit of stepping outside your own head and asking, what is actually going on for this person right now? Picture someone snapping at you for no clear reason. Your first instinct is to snap back and protect your pride. But if you pause and wonder what weight they might be carrying that has nothing to do with you, everything shifts. You're not excusing bad behavior. You're seeing past it. You stay steady while they lose their footing. And in a world full of people shouting, "Notice me," the person who quietly notices others becomes the one everyone remembers. Rule 3. Everybody is performing a character. From childhood, we're handed a script. Smile even when it hurts. Act impressed even when you're bored. Look composed even while falling apart inside. Most people spend their whole lives acting a part rather than actually living, and they get so good at it that even they forget where the performance ends and the real self begins. That means the person who seems endlessly warm in public might be cold or cutting behind closed doors. The partner who plays the role of perfect in front of others might privately be consumed by insecurity or resentment. What you see on the surface is often the least reliable evidence of who someone truly is. So, how do you protect yourself? Stop grading people on their performance and start studying their patterns instead. Watch how someone treats a waiter, a stranger, someone who can do nothing for them. Watch how they behave when they're exhausted or under pressure, when the mask slips, because there's no energy left to hold it up. Notice whether their actions ever quietly contradict their words. Say a coworker always praises you loudly in the group chat, but the moment you actually succeed, they go strangely silent. No message, no congratulations. That silence tells you more than 100 compliments did. Or someone constantly insists, "I'm the most honest person you'll meet." Yet somehow it's never their fault, always someone else's. That's not honesty. That's a costume. Most of the pain we carry doesn't come from people hurting us. It comes from us believing the costume instead of the person wearing it. Rule 4. We repeat what we never face. Look closely at almost anyone's life, and you'll spot the same loop playing on repeat. The same type of partner who breaks their heart. The same wall they hit right before success and quietly climb back down from. The same explosion of anger in every argument, word for word, like a scene they can't stop rehearsing. These loops usually trace back to something old, a wound from childhood, a pattern learned early that never got examined. Instead of confronting it, people run from it, and running only tightens the loop until it starts shaping their health, their relationships, their whole future. Picture a man who grew up feeling invisible at home. As an adult, he chases achievement after achievement, trying to finally be seen, but no promotion, no praise, no applause ever fills that particular hole, because the hole was never about accomplishment in the first place. Or picture a woman who was deeply let down once, long ago. Now, the instant a new relationship starts to feel safe, she quietly starts pulling away, sabotaging it before it can hurt her the way the last one did. It was never really about the new person. It was about protecting an old wound. Breaking this doesn't require perfection. It requires honesty without cruelty toward yourself. Ask what keeps showing up uninvited in your life. Ask what you keep doing, even while some part of you already knows it's costing you. Stop blaming circumstances and start reading your own history like a map instead of a mystery. The moment you can name the loop, you can finally step outside it. And when you do, you're not just fixing a bad habit, you're rewriting what your future is allowed to look like. Rule 5. We want what we can't have. Ask yourself honestly why so many people ignore something good sitting right in front of them and instead chase something distant, unavailable, or even damaging. Desire, it turns out, isn't really built on logic. It's built on mystery and distance. We rarely long for what we fully understand. We long for what we can only imagine. Have you noticed someone becomes more interesting the moment they stop giving you attention? Or that a product suddenly seems more valuable the second it's marked sold out? Or that people will chase someone cold and unavailable while walking right past someone warm and devoted? None of that is love, and none of it is wisdom. It's simply the mind falling for whatever it cannot fully hold. You see this everywhere. Marketing thrives on scarcity. Dating often rewards a little mystery over open availability. Careers can become obsessions the moment they feel just out of reach. And here's the twist. The moment people finally catch what they were chasing, the thrill often disappears almost instantly, because the target was never really the point. The chase was. So use this wisely. Stop pouring every ounce of your time and emotion into people who never have to work for it. When everything is given freely, it stops feeling valuable. Allow a little space, a little mystery, not as manipulation, but as self-respect. And most importantly, catch yourself before you fall into the same trap. Ask whether you're pursuing something because it's genuinely good for you, or simply because it hasn't said yes yet. Real maturity chooses peace over adrenaline, chooses the person who is present over the one who keeps you guessing. Stay with me, because the next few rules go even deeper than the ones you just heard, and one of them might describe someone you know without you ever realizing it. Rule 6. We trade tomorrow for a feeling today. Everyone wants results instantly, love instantly, success instantly, relief instantly. So people make choices built entirely for today, without ever asking what those choices cost tomorrow. This is the habit of trading a distant, larger reward for a smaller one right now, and it quietly wrecks more lives than almost anything else on this list. Someone knows they should be saving money, but a new pair of shoes catches their eye, and the purchase happens anyway, not from need, but from wanting a small hit of pleasure right now. Weeks later, when an unexpected bill lands, the panic sets in, and the real cost of that small decision finally shows up. Or think of someone bored in a relationship who chases a moment of excitement elsewhere. In that instant, it feels alive. Weeks later, it's guilt, broken trust, and a mess that takes years to clean up. This shows up everywhere. People quit the gym after one disappointing week, abandon a dream because progress feels too slow, stay up scrolling long after they know they'll regret it in the morning. The world keeps telling you to live in the moment, but that advice becomes dangerous the second it disconnects you from consequence. Real strength comes from asking a harder question. How will this choice look to me a year from now? Am I trading a little discomfort today for real peace later, or trading real peace later for a little comfort today? Anyone can grab what feels good right now. Very few can build patiently for something better later, and those few are the ones who end up unshaken by life's storms. Rule 7. We fight the very help we need. Have you ever offered someone honest, caring feedback and watched them get defensive instead of grateful? Have you ever tried to gently help a friend see something clearly, only to be pushed away? That reaction has a name, and almost every human being has it wired in somewhere. Change feels threatening because it forces an admission. I didn't know better. I need to grow. I was wrong. That's a hard pill for the ego to swallow. Think of someone who's constantly negative. You suggest kindly, maybe try focusing on solutions instead. Their response? Oh, so now I'm the problem. They aren't reacting to your words. They're reacting to feeling exposed. Or picture someone at work refusing to learn a new skill, even as their entire industry shifts beneath them. I've always done it this way, they insist. That's not laziness. That's fear. Wearing the costume of stubbornness, fear of failing, fear of looking foolish, fear of starting over from nothing. This applies to you too, whether you notice it or not. Do you bristle when someone challenges an idea you're attached to? Do you dismiss something new simply because it's unfamiliar? If so, you're not broken, you're simply human. But naming it is the first step to loosening its grip. The strongest people aren't the ones who never make mistakes. They're the ones who can hear a hard truth, sit with the discomfort, and say, maybe this is exactly what I needed to hear. Dropping your guard doesn't make you weaker. It's often the very thing that makes you wiser. Rule 8. We quietly wreck our own progress. This one is painful because it's so common. So many people are not stopped by enemies or bad luck. They are stopped by their own hidden habits, their own fear of the very success they say they want. You've probably watched it happen, maybe even to yourself. Someone finally starts eating well, then abandons it days later. Someone finally finds a stretch of peace, then dials up an old, toxic connection just to stir things up again. Someone finally launches a project, then quietly lets it die, saying, I guess I just lost motivation. Why does this happen? Somewhere underneath, a belief is running the show. I don't actually deserve this. I always mess things up eventually. That belief becomes an invisible prison, and people will unconsciously choose chaos over comfort just to stay consistent with the story they've believed about themselves for years. Picture someone raised by parents who rarely praised them. They grow up chasing validation through achievement, land a great job, start earning well. Yet every small setback now feels like proof of their deepest fear. So they slow down, they delay, they quietly disconnect from opportunity after opportunity until they land right back where they started. And the saddest part is, they rarely even notice they're the one closing the door. So how do you break it? Start by rewriting the inner story. Ask what belief about yourself is keeping you small. Ask what fear surfaces exactly when things start going right. Then, instead of demanding perfection overnight, start keeping small promises to yourself, again and again, until your own mind finally believes you're safe to succeed. You don't need to be flawless. You simply need to stop being the obstacle standing in your own path. Rule 9. What you bury learns to run you. Nearly everyone is carrying a quiet storm they've never let out. Anger that was never spoken. Grief that was never fully felt. Shame tucked away so long ago, it feels normal now. Instead of facing these things, most people bury them, insisting, I'm over it. It doesn't affect me anymore. But buried feelings don't vanish. They transform, and they resurface in ways that seem to have nothing to do with their original cause. Sudden anger over something small, cold distance towards someone who did nothing wrong, a fear of closeness, jealousy that quietly poisons a relationship. Self-criticism disguised as high standards. Consider someone who was left behind by a parent as a child and never spoke of it again. She grows up telling herself she's fine, she's strong. That was ages ago. Yet the moment someone gets emotionally close, she finds herself pulling back, unable to explain why love never seems to last. Or consider someone who endured cruelty in school and never processed it. As an adult, he becomes fiercely competitive, always needing to win, always needing proof of his worth, not because he's ambitious, but because a much younger version of him is still trying to silence an old insult. The lesson here is uncomfortable but important. Whatever you refuse to look at directly finds another way to control you. Through your body, your relationships, your work, even your sleep. The solution isn't to relive the pain over and over, but to finally sit with it honestly, without shame, and say, yes, that happened. Yes, it hurt, and I no longer have to carry it in silence. Healing isn't weakness. It might be the single strongest thing a person can ever do for themselves. The people who feel most solid aren't the ones who never broke. They're the ones who broke, healed, and came back steadier than before. Rule 10. Jealousy rarely announces itself. Here's a truth almost nobody wants to say out loud. When you rise, when you grow, when good things finally start happening for you, not everyone will be happy for you, even if they smile while saying congratulations. And the uncomfortable part is that it's rarely a stranger. Sometimes it's someone close, a friend, a relative, someone you once helped along the way. Because envy tends to hide behind the most familiar faces. Envy is dangerous precisely because it almost never announces itself. Nobody says, "I'm jealous of you." Instead, they go quiet without explanation. They turn oddly critical or competitive. They shrink your win down to luck. They copy what you're doing and quietly try to outdo you. Say you start working hard, improving your habits, your health, your finances. Suddenly an old friend starts mocking your discipline, calling you too serious or boring. Your growth is simply holding up a mirror to their own standing still. Or you finally buy something you saved years for, and instead of celebrating with you, someone mutters, "Must be nice." That's not a compliment. That's envy wearing a smile. Protecting yourself starts with releasing the need to be liked by everyone. You are not responsible for how your progress makes someone else feel. Watch people's reactions, not just their words. And if someone can't celebrate you without turning it into a contest, quietly protect your distance. And be honest with yourself too, because everyone feels a flicker of envy sometimes. The real skill is turning it into fuel instead of poison, asking, "What can I learn from their path?" instead of, "Why not me?" Envy that turns into admiration builds you. Envy that turns into bitterness slowly hollows you out. Choose the first one. Rule 11. Winning streaks can blind you. This one is for the people finally climbing, finally winning, finally being noticed. Because success carries a quiet danger most people never see coming. It can convince you that you're untouchable. When things start going right, you begin believing everything you touch will succeed. You stop listening to feedback. You take bigger risks with less preparation. You get hooked on praise. And slowly, without noticing, you become the very thing standing in your own way. Picture a founder who builds something genuinely successful, gets celebrated, admired, quoted. Suddenly, every suggestion from his team feels like an insult rather than help. He stops learning because he's too busy being applauded. He makes bold, careless moves, and the whole thing eventually cracks. Not because he lacked talent, but because early success convinced him he was beyond mistakes. Or picture a creator who finally goes viral. Instead of protecting their craft, they start chasing the applause itself. They stop practicing, stop refining, stop listening, and the work quietly gets lazier, while the noise around them gets louder, so loud they can't hear the warning bells anymore. The fix is simple to say and hard to live. Keep returning to humility. Remind yourself often that you're still learning, still capable of being wrong. Keep people close who will tell you the truth, instead of just what feels good to hear. And know the difference between confidence and arrogance. Confidence says, I trust my ability. Arrogance says, I can never be wrong. The higher you climb, the more it matters to stay rooted, because it isn't the fastest rising mountain that lasts through the storm. It's the one with the deepest roots. Rule 12. Rigid roles trap both sides. From your very first breath, the world starts handing you instructions. If you're a boy, be tough. Don't cry. Don't show weakness. If you're a girl, be gentle. Be quiet. Don't take up too much space. These messages sound small, but over years they become walls. A boy taught to hide every feeling grows into a man who can't open up even while quietly falling apart. A girl taught to stay small grows into a woman who struggles to speak even when something is deeply wrong. The truth is that strength and softness aren't opposite genders. They're energies, and every person carries both. One is direct, driven, and action-focused. The other is intuitive, caring, and emotionally attuned. But most people are taught early to reject whichever half doesn't match what they were told to be. Picture a man raised to believe emotion is weakness. He becomes hardworking, logical, guarded, successful on paper, yet emotionally distant in every relationship that matters, unable to comfort others, or even name his own sadness, not because something is wrong with him, but because that entire side of him was locked away before he ever got a chance to use it. Or picture a woman who's naturally bold and outspoken, constantly told she's too much, until she starts shrinking on purpose, smiling instead of saying what she actually feels, quietly sacrificing her own power just to be accepted. Breaking free means reclaiming both halves of yourself instead of asking permission to exist. If you're naturally strong, let yourself be tender too. If you're naturally gentle, let yourself access real power too. Stop asking what you're allowed to be, and start asking what part of yourself you were never allowed to use. The moment you stop living inside a box someone else built, you don't lose who you are. You finally arrive at who you were always meant to be. Rule 13. Motion without meaning is still lost. Look around, and you'll see people constantly busy, endlessly moving between tasks, notifications, obligations, yet somewhere underneath, quietly lost. This rule holds a truth that stings. Being busy is not the same as having purpose, and motion is not the same as progress. People study what they were told to study, work jobs they were pushed into, chase money and approval, and still feel hollow, because none of it was ever chosen from the inside. Picture someone who spends a decade climbing a career ladder, finally reaches a title they once wanted, buys the house, earns the respect, and then one quiet evening realizes, I don't even enjoy what I do anymore, and I'm not sure I remember who I was before all this. That's purposelessness, wearing the disguise of achievement. Or picture someone who keeps switching careers, calling it getting bored easily, when really, they're avoiding the deeper work of discovering what actually matters to them, because staying on the surface feels safer than diving down. This doesn't mean your entire life must be mapped out. It means you need a reason underneath the motion. Ask what you would still choose to do, even if nobody ever noticed or applauded it. Ask what kind of difficulty you'd be willing to endure for something that genuinely matters to you. Purpose rarely shouts. Usually it whispers, and you only hear it once you finally get quiet enough to listen. Without it, time slips through your hands unnoticed. With it, even the hard days start to feel like they mean something. Rule 14. The crowd feels safer than it is. Humans are wired to want belonging, to be accepted, to feel like part of something bigger. But that very desire can quietly become dangerous, because it convinces people to abandon their own judgment just to stay inside the circle. Given the choice, most people would rather be wrong together than right alone, and that instinct shapes far more decisions than anyone likes to admit. You've watched this happen. Someone dresses a certain way not from preference but from trend. Someone laughs at a joke they don't find funny because everyone else is laughing. Someone stays silent while something clearly wrong is happening because speaking up would mean standing apart. Picture a teenager who joins a group that mocks other people to seem cool. At first, it feels wrong. Over time, he joins in anyway, not because he agrees, but because the fear of being cast out is louder than his own conscience. Years later, he barely recognizes the person he became. Or picture someone with a genuine dream to build something of her own, surrounded by voices insisting, just play it safe, get something stable. So she lets the dream quietly die, not because it was impossible, but because standing out felt more frightening than staying invisible. Breaking free starts with real self-respect, believing your own judgment matters, even when it's unpopular. It means spending enough time alone to make decisions without needing constant approval. It means replacing the question, "What will people think?" with the sharper question, "Will I respect myself afterward?" Greatness has never come from blending in. It comes from standing apart with integrity, even when it's uncomfortable. Because the crowd is loud, but your own conscience, quieter as it is almost always wiser. Rule 15. Loyalty often follows the weather. At some point in life, you will feel this one directly. Someone praises you today and forgets you exist tomorrow. Someone stands beside you while you're struggling, then resents you the moment you finally rise. Someone insists, "I'll always be here for you," then vanishes the instant things get difficult. The truth underneath this is uncomfortable. People's emotions shift quickly, and their loyalty often lives inside whatever mood they're currently feeling, not inside any lasting memory of you. Say you help someone through their darkest stretch. They call you unforgettable. Say they'll never forget what you did. Months later, once their life improves, the calls stop, the replies fade, and you're left wondering what you did wrong. But nothing happened. They simply moved into a different emotional season, and people usually act from whatever they're feeling right now, not from what they felt about you last year. Or picture yourself doing well, everyone around you celebrating your rise, and then one mistake, one rough patch, and the applause quietly disappears, along with half the people who gave it. That's because many people aren't loyal to you specifically. They're loyal to whichever version of you currently benefits them. Living with this truth means untangling your sense of worth from other people's praise. Appreciate compliments without clinging to them. Consider criticism without collapsing under it. Build your identity from something steadier than the shifting moods of the people around you. Because the ones who are genuinely real don't disappear with the seasons, and the ones who do were never really staying for you in the first place. Let them go. That's not a loss. That's freedom. Rule 16. Not every enemy raises their voice. Some of the most dangerous people you'll meet will shake your hand with a smile while quietly hoping you fail. Aggression isn't always loud. Often it's the opposite: quiet, indirect, dressed up in politeness, which makes it far harder to spot and far more damaging when it lands. Say you share good news. "I finally got the position I wanted." And someone responds with a flat, "Oh, that's nice." A reply so cold it barely qualifies as a reaction. Later you discover they've been quietly questioning whether you deserved it at all. That's aggression, wearing courtesy as a disguise. Or picture a colleague who repeatedly forgets to loop you into important conversations, always apologizing, always promising it won't happen again, yet somehow it keeps happening. That isn't forgetfulness. That's a quiet, ongoing conflict nobody's willing to name out loud. Protecting yourself starts with reading tone and pattern, rather than waiting for people to announce their feelings honestly. When you sense this kind of hidden hostility, meet it with calm clarity, instead of matching hostility with hostility. Something feels off between us. Want to talk about it? Most people won't be ready to answer honestly, but you'll still protect your own peace either way. And don't ignore repeated small jabs disguised as jokes, or just being honest. You don't need to prove anyone wrong. You simply need to protect your energy, because real strength was never about shouting the loudest. It's about staying steady while someone else quietly tries to shake you. Rule 17. Your era shapes you more than you realize. You are shaped by far more than your family or your personal choices. You're shaped by the exact moment in history you happen to be born into. And most people never stop to notice how deeply that has molded their values, their fears, and their expectations. Someone raised during a stretch of comfort and abundance might come to believe ease and enjoyment are simply owed to them. Someone raised during hardship or crisis might value caution, endurance, and hard work above almost everything else. Neither person is wrong. They were simply built by different times, and when their worlds collide, the friction often gets blamed on personality when it's really a clash of eras. Picture a young person today convinced that visibility online defines their worth, chasing attention as though it's oxygen, never quite realizing that this entire value system barely existed a couple of decades earlier, and may barely exist a couple of decades from now. If the platforms disappear, so does the identity built entirely on top of them, because it was borrowed from a moment in time, not built from anything lasting. Breaking free from this invisible current means asking honestly, are these beliefs truly mine, or did I simply absorb them from the noise around me? Would I still believe this if I'd been born a century earlier? Am I chasing whatever's trending while ignoring older, steadier values like patience, discipline, and depth? Your generation moves like a current. You can either be swept along by it or learn to swim with awareness inside it. Just because everyone around you believes something right now doesn't automatically make it true. And the sharpest minds learn to live fully in their moment while still thinking beyond it. Rule 18. Pretending you have forever wastes the time you actually have. Most people move through their days as though time is unlimited. You wake up, scroll, rush, stress over things that won't matter in a year, all while quietly assuming there's always more time coming. But nobody actually knows how much time they have. Maybe decades. Maybe far less. And every single moment that passes is one moment closer to the end, whether we admit it or not. And yet most people live as if they're exempt from this. They postpone the things that matter. They hold on to grudges that cost them peace. They chase things that look good but feel empty. always waiting for the right time, that somehow never actually arrives. This is the quiet tragedy sitting underneath so many lives. The one truth that could genuinely change how we live gets pushed away because it's uncomfortable to face. Picture someone who spends decades chasing wealth and status, sacrificing health, family, and peace along the way, only to end up somewhere quiet and still, finally realizing, I always assumed there'd be more time to fix it later. Or picture someone full of talent who keeps saying, next year I'll finally start, until next year becomes 5 years, then 10, and the window quietly closes. Not because their gift disappeared, but because the time to use it did. Most people don't actually fear the end. They fear reaching it, having never truly lived, never having said what needed saying, never having used the voice or the gift they were given. The answer isn't to live in fear of the clock. It's to let the clock sharpen how you live, loving more openly, forgiving faster, creating without waiting for permission, choosing yourself instead of waiting to be chosen. Because it was never really the ending that should frighten you. It's living a life that was never truly yours. Every time you look away from this truth, you quietly waste a little more life. Every time you face it, you wake a little more of it up. You've just spent time doing something most people avoid. You look directly at how people actually behave, instead of how they pretend to. You saw how a smile can hide a storm, how success can quietly blind the very people it lifts, how buried pain finds its way out eventually, how easy it is to drift through years without ever choosing anything on purpose. And now that you've seen it, you're not going to unsee it. If any part of this made you pause, made you think differently about someone in your life, or about yourself, then this is exactly the kind of space you want to keep coming back to. Join our community here at WisdomLoom English, where we don't just read books, we sit with the truth inside them until it actually changes something. Hit subscribe, because we do this every single week, and you won't want to miss the next one. This isn't the end of anything. It's the start of paying attention. So go live like you finally see it clearly, because now you actually do.